Let's talk draft rumors on today's episode, as the NFL draft is just over a week away, and there's some chatter out there about what Denver is going to do at pick number 20, and the chatter is it's different than everything else we have discussed over the last couple of weeks and honestly months at this point. So we're going to break it all down on today's episode. Appreciate everyone for tuning in. Quick reminder to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. By draft night, I want to be at 32,000 subscribers here on the channel. We are a little under 900 away, so a lofty goal, but if you are a believer in the direction this team is headed, join the #1 Broncos YouTube channel out there, according to your dog. So let's talk about what's going to happen at pick number 20, because ESPN came out with a very insightful article about what they're hearing for all 32 teams going into the draft. And when I read Denver's, it caught me by surprise a little bit, caught me off guard. Here's what Jordan Reid from Bristol had to say. The Broncos have been linked to the running backs in round 1. But the depth of this RB class makes it more likely that they'll wait until day 2 to grab a player such as TreVeyon Henderson or Kaleb Johnson. Instead, league sources have told us that Denver might use its first-round pick to add to what is already one of the NFL's best defenses. Safety Nick Emmanwori is a wild card to keep an eye on there. So let me interject and start talking about the running back side of that quote, and then we'll look at the defensive side later on. I am comfortable with reaching on a running back at pick number 20. You know how everyone loves to say, just take the best player available, best player available, best player available. If the best player available in this draft were to be a quarterback, would you want one? Or an outside linebacker? Probably not. I'm guessing you'd feel pretty comfortable with Bo Nix and Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper. So I'm okay with prioritizing team needs versus what the board says, right? Who the best player available is at pick number 20 if you feel comfortable at that spot. When you're a bad 4, 5, 6 win team, then you should just harvest all the good players you can get and figure out where everyone goes later on. When you're coming off a playoff appearance, you should try and plug the last few holes on that roster. And the biggest gaping hole is running back. They cannot go into the season with this being the running back room. And I know they won't, but they should look to improve the running back room with their #1 draft pick. Just take a quick stroll down memory lane. If that's not convincing enough for you, let me remind you how bad the running back production was a year ago. The Broncos running backs by rushing yards came in bottom 10 in the NFL, and it's almost a miracle that it was not even worse than that. But I think so much of that can be attributed to how good of an offensive line they had. And despite having a very good front 5, the running backs could not churn out more than 3 yards a carry, it felt like, on a good day. Javonte Williams, who led the Broncos in rushing yards, he finished 32nd amongst all 32 team rushing leaders. This should be a wake-up call, and more importantly, a reminder for how bad the running back room was a year ago, and that if reaching on a guy at pick number 20 is not the most popular thing by the board after the night is over, so be it. But I think in a couple of years, you'll look back and go, yep, I'm glad Denver finally got the long-term answer at running back that they have been searching for quietly a very long time, and it's starting to become not very quiet anymore. I mean, just to really pour salt on the wound here, Williams last year, that was arguably one of the worst starting running back performances or just team leading rushing performances in NFL history. He played in all 17 games, and the only running backs that had fewer yards but led the team in rushing were Breece Hall, who played 7 his rookie year, Joe Mixon, who played in 6 in 2020, and Rex Burkhead, 427 yards to take the cake. Go get one of the top 3 running backs. In a perfect world, you get your #1 back in round 2 and someone else in round 1. And that would really be the most ideal draft for me. Kaleb Johnson is my #2 back in this class. Ideal plan number one is get Ashton Genty, but that seems unlikely. So yeah, in a perfect world, if you could get Johnson or Hampton in round 2 if they fall to you and get another player in round 1, sweet. But I don't want to play with my food. I don't want to get risky. I don't want to be the smartest guy in the room and go, hey, let's see if we can fantasy football this thing here and wait until round 2 for our number 1 back and fingers crossed he falls to us. No. Because while the draft is a crapshoot and there's nothing guaranteed, people have a pretty good sense when it comes to running backs. Quarterbacks can be a different thing, right? We see so many examples of Mahomes and Josh Allen, Lamar, and so many other great examples of guys going a little bit later than first, second, or third overall and being the best quarterback in that class. However, look back at the last 10 years with me here. Any patterns for who in my opinion, and subjectively, the RB1 was, or the best running back was in every single draft class? It was an RB that was taken either first, second, or third. Bucky Irving is the only outlier here. Bijan Robinson, if you don't think he was the best running back from 2023, fine, go with Jahmyr Gibbs. Still, RB2. James Cook, Najee Harris, Jonathan Taylor, all one of the first 3 running backs selected. Same goes for Jacobs, for Barkley. I mean, if you don't want Barkley, you want to go with Nick Chubb, fine, but RB2, and he was taken early in round 2. Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Todd Gurley. The scouts, the pundits across the draft world, they've got a pretty good sense when it comes to evaluating running back prospects. And so if you wait until Denver's pick in the middle of round 2, you're not going to get RB1, 2, or probably 3. At best, I think you're getting RB4. And I'm willing to look back at the last 10 drafts and go, 9 out of those 10 drafts, the best running back in each class was either selected first, second, or third from his position. I would like Denver to be in that position. And I think if they wait until round 2, they may not get the first, second, third, or possibly even the 4th running back taken. And I don't want to take that risk. I want to play it safe. I want to go with the number 1, the number 2, or the number 3 back available when pick number 20 gets here. Before we move on to the defensive players that Jordan Reid talked about on that article from ESPN, I do want to give a quick shout out to our friends over at Game Time. Game Time is the place to be for killer last-minute deals. They've got so many awesome things coming up right now with the NBA playoffs and then NHL playoffs around the corner. Plus, if you want to go to a Rockies game, Game Time is the place to visit. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. with Game Time. Game Time also has all-in pricing. When you toggle this feature, it'll show you the total upfront cost with no surprise fees at checkout. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA playoff tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHAT Sports for $20 off. I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Let's talk about those defensive targets for the Broncos in round 1. Starting off with Nick Emmanwori, who was the dark horse that Jordan Reid mentioned as a potential pick at 20. So a little background on Emmanwori, and then we'll look at 2 more guys as well. So the first thing that should jump out to you here is this is a physical freak. Right, he was one of Bruce Feldman's top freaks, I believe it was, in 2024 for college football. He's 6'3", 220. So I would say he's an undersized linebacker more than your traditional routine safety size. But then he ran a 4.38 40-yard dash. Those guys just don't come around every single year in the draft. So if you're looking to draft traits, if you're looking to draft athletes because you can't teach speed, you can't teach height, and you want to fill out the rest later, he's your number 1 guy. But I would say he's not just a very good athlete. No, he's got incredible production as well. As a true freshman in 2022, he led the Gamecocks in tackles with 85. He was the first freshman at South Carolina to be an All-American since TreVeyon Clowney, and he's got great ball skills, 6 career interceptions, 2 pick sixes last year. There is a lot to like. This is not just a really good athlete, but not a lot of great production. Nope, production's great. Maybe not the stickiest guy in coverage. He tends to hang out a little bit more in the box, so a little bit reminiscent of like Jamal Adams, I guess, coming out of LSU. But Emmanwori, for a safety prospect, may not be like a generational one, but he is going to be a very reliable starting safety for a team for years to come. I always like to do a compliment sandwich when talking about some of these prospects because I know not everyone is up to speed on every single prospect out there. So here's a bite-sized form for the South Carolina safety. One pro, like I said, the rare size and speed combination. He was on the freaks list, and there's a reason why. When you're 6'3", 220, and you run a sub-4, 440-yard dash, yeah, coaches are going to take a second and third look at you. Now, the con is this is where things start to come crashing down a little bit, but not too hard. The reads and the angles are a little bit inconsistent. So he may not have the greatest sense of being in the right place at the right time and maybe coast off his athleticism a little bit, and that may come back to bite him in the butt in the NFL when everyone else is big and fast as well. The other pro is, if you want to have a safety who can hang around the line of scrimmage, who you can use on blitz packages, he's your man. I think this is what Denver wanted P.J. Locke to be a little bit more of, and they just couldn't get that out of him, so he had to sit back a little bit, but this is a player who can bring a ton to the table when it comes to exotic blitz packages and versatility, using him across the defensive line and at the line of scrimmage. So I like Nick Emmanwori a lot as a player. If he is the pick for Denver, I won't be upset, but I will be waiting to see what running back they end up getting, because I think a running back could influence this team a whole lot more than a safety when you've already got Talanoa Hufanga and Brandon Jones. So where does he fit in? A third safety this year and then replaces Jones next year, or a third safety this year, and if Hufanga can't stay healthy, then he just immediately steps right into the starting lineup. But for now, we're talking about a first-round pick that wouldn't have a huge role early on if everyone else is healthy on the roster. Let's move on to the other 2 defensive targets in just a moment here. But what would you rather the Broncos do in round 1? Just take a running back? Let's say like Omarion Hampton's available, but if Sean Payton has 5 guys higher up on their big board, do you want to go with one of those 5 guys? If they think Emmanwori or one of these other 2 guys we'll look at in a second are better players than Omarion Hampton, which pick would you rather go with? I'm okay with reaching on a running back for how desperate you are for a running back. Next 2 players up actually play the same position, so we can kind of combo these guys here. We've got Walter Nolan from Ole Miss and Derek Harmon. 2 players that we have talked about a good amount on the channel, but the reason is I think there's a very real chance that this could be the selection for the Broncos if running backs and tight ends start to fly off the board, right? If we see Colston Loveland, Tyler Warren, Genty, and Omarion Hampton all go 1 through 15, Denver may come to the decision that they don't want to reach on Kaleb Johnson or TreVeyon Henderson, and they're going to hope that one of those 2 guys could be there in round 2, or maybe they trade up in round 2, and they play it safe with someone who they have higher up on their board, like a Walter Nolan, 6'3", 300-ish pounds. He's got a very interesting career path. So he hopped all over Tennessee, where he was a big-time 5-star recruit, played high school at a handful of different locations. Then he goes to College Station, plays 2 years for the Aggies, transfers to Ole Miss, 4 years of high school, 3 years of college. He only ever played at the same school back-to-back years once. Yeah, at Texas A&M, his freshman and sophomore season. So he needs a little bit of stability, I think, and that should be a nice, breath of fresh air wherever he ends up in the NFL. His compliment sandwich looks like this. He's got great athleticism and explosiveness. His first step, his hand usage, I know those are kind of buzzwords and kind of scout terms when it comes to some of these guys, but if you're looking for 300 pounds that can move quickly, he's your guy. He's your guy. He's not Aaron Donald fast. Like, that's just one of one, and don't believe anyone if they try and pass him off as even shades of that, but he is not a tree stump. He is not 300 pounds that does not move and just sits in the middle. No, he's 300 pounds that can get into the backfield. So the other pro for him I have is the burst. And this is where the hands come in because he's got that explosiveness that teams really covet in that interior defensive tackle, defensive lineman, because it allows for the quarterback to get pressure from the edges and from right up the gut. So that's kind of the background on Nolan. I think he could have a good-sized role right as a rookie. Rotational piece with DJ Jones and John Franklin Myers. I don't think he's going to be a true one-technique nose tackle. He'll probably be something a little bit more like John Franklin Myers or Zach Allen, where he bounces around that 3 technique and maybe out to 5 technique, but I think he's probably a little bit too big for that spot right there. So keep an eye on like a John Franklin Myers type replacement where, I mean, he's going into a contract year, so it could be pretty good timing for 2026. The other player I want to look at is the Oregon defensive tackle, Derek Harmon. A little bit bigger, 6'4", 313 pounds. Now, he started off at Michigan State. He was not some huge, big-time recruit for the Spartans, but after 3 years in East Lansing, he goes over to Eugene, where he has a breakout 2024 season on Dan Lanning's defense. Here's his compliment sandwich when it comes to what you have to know about Harmon. He shows good athleticism for a 313-pound guy. You might think he's just a run stuffer. No, he shows a lot of pass rush potential. Now, the weight's a little bit of a concern. He came to college as a 350-pound freshman. It got down to a more playable weight, but you're going to want to get a lot of snaps out of your first-round draft pick. And if you're a big fella, the conditioning can really tack on and become a prohibitor from you getting on the field more as the year goes along. So that's going to have to be something that the coaches monitor. Now, the con that I've got for him is the missed tackles. He had 12 missed tackles last year, which was the worst amongst all interior defensive linemen at the FBS level. A lot of this information, by the way, coming from Dane Brugler's The Beast. So if you're looking for fun facts like this, I really recommend you check that out as well. But I like both Harmon and Walter Nolan. I would lean towards Nolan. I just think that the traits and the skill set are higher. There are moments that you have like, WTF am I watching when you throw his tape on? And there could be a slight roller coaster feel to it. But at pick number 20, you got to remind yourself, you're not going to find a perfect prospect, right? That's kind of the territory of coming with picking later in the rounds. But I am willing to invest in or believe in Sean Payton and Vance Joseph to take a really good traits and production player in Nolan. And same goes for Emmanwori, and kind of tighten some of those loose screws a little bit and get a guy who can be an awesome athlete that showed great production in college and is just not perfect. But that's all right because Sean Payton and Vance Joseph are great coaches. And so if you can give them a great piece of clay that's already pre-molded, they can kind of do the rest of the job themselves. All right, let's name a random Broncos defensive tackle. I thought this could be a fun one to wrap up the video on, so I'm thinking of one myself. I've got mine. All right, you ready? Here we go. I'm going to count down 3, 2, 1. Derek Wolfe. I'm going to go with Derek Wolfe, but draft was 10 years ago now, so let me know if I got you, if you said the same name in the comment section below. Otherwise, I'll see everyone later.